Hey, Facebook live stream viewers, welcome. You're backstage on Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. And by my side today, Cheri Blair, who's going to be our guest, and we are going to be talking about women and wages, closing the wage gap. She's going to help in educate us today. I was looking for that word of opening up the awareness and all that, and it wasn't coming to me. Mercury is in retrograde.
You have to remind us of that, Paula.
I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding.
Well, we're going to overcome it today.
There you go.
So Cheri will be joining us a little later in the show, and in the meantime, we're going to get started. But something very special today. Cheri is joining me for the inaugural voyage of our Facebook live stream fully produced radio show. So you're going to be hearing the music, you're going to hear the commercials, you're going to hear it all today just like you were listening on the radio. So we're very excited about this new venture, and thank you for being part of it. All right.
Tired of the rut you're stuck in, but don't know what to do? Change it up. Join life transitions therapist, speaker, and best-selling author Paula Shaw. She'll be exploring topics that make change and the challenge it presents smoother and more productive. She'll also be spotlighting change makers who are leading the charge to make the world a better place. If you're ready to live a more exciting life, at home, in the workplace, and around the world, it's time to step out of your comfort zone and change it up. Now, here's your host, Paula Shaw.
Welcome to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. We are so happy to have you with us today because, once again, we have a very important show. We're going to be talking about women and wages and how do we close that wage gap. Cheri Blair, our financial advisor and sponsor, will be joining us to talk about that. Some of you may remember that last month we did a show on the whole situation that exists with the gender wage gap. And we were saying then that women are still making 80 cents to the dollar that men make. And for women of color, that's even lower, sometimes as low as 60 cents. So this is just not okay. And we're going to be talking today about how do we fix this situation? How do we close that gender wage gap? So Cheri Blair will be joining us a little later in the show, and we're going to figure out then how to solve that problem. Thank you for being with us here on Change It Up Radio. And as most of you know, we're about change. We're about helping people cope with change because it comes in all forms, right? I mean, change is always happening, whether we like it or not, whether it's welcome or not. But we want to help people. We want to give them information to help make change smoother and more productive. And we also like to spotlight change makers, people who are out there in the world making a difference and changing things for the better. So I so love the theme of my show, and I so love the people that I get to bring to you and the information that I get to bring to you to help us all cope with change and make it more of our friend, because humans are funny, you know. We know change is going to happen, and we actually need it. We need to get out of our comfort zones in order to grow, and we need new experiences in order to just not be bored. But we hate the discomfort of the unfamiliar. And of course, anytime change comes, we're looking at something unfamiliar because something new just arrived. And sometimes it takes us a little time to adjust to that. And sometimes we do better with change, you know, depending on the circumstances. But I kind of think of change in two categories. There's welcome change, like maybe moving into a new house. But then even then, there's the unfamiliar and there's the adjustment period. And then there's unwelcome change, like maybe finding out that your boyfriend cheated on you, or finding yourself in the midst of a divorce unexpectedly, or a death, or a job loss. You know, those kinds of unwelcome change can really throw people for a loop and really cause a myriad of responses. Sometimes people go into phobias or anxiety. Sometimes they just get discouraged and depressed. We all have different ways of responding, and each of us will respond differently according to what the change was and how we feel about it. So we really take our job seriously here at Change It Up Radio. And that's why today we're so excited about talking about this wage gap, because this is a change that needs to happen. And we also like to be people who elicit change. And that's one of the reasons that we come to you, because we want to throw some ideas out to you. A little while back, we did a show on the situation with the nuclear waste at San Onofre, and things are beginning to change. Now, that's not all because of us, but we like to have played a part in that, because Mike Levin now is really getting involved in trying to make changes on a governmental level so that we're all safer and so that a nuclear crisis won't occur and endanger all of us here in the West Coast. So it's exciting. It's exciting to get to bring information to you all that can be very helpful in your life and maybe in changing the world. So if you want to listen to some of those shows from the past, or if you'd like to find out information about how you can be a guest on this show and get your message out there, or maybe be a sponsor on this show, then you can find that information at changeitupradio.com. That's changeitupradio.com. And if you'd like to find out more about me and my work in helping people deal with change and life transitions, that information can be found at paulashaw.com. paulashaw.com. And one of the things that I love about my work is that I have the opportunity, if people are open to it, to use mind-body tools, neuroscience tools, and energy psychology tools that bypass the conscious mind and work primarily with the subconscious. And as I have said many times before, that's important because the subconscious mind is actually 95% of our mind functioning. And the conscious, this frontal cortex part here, the conscious mind, well, that's the brain, but it all works together. The conscious mind is only 5% of our mind functioning. So if we want to create real change, we're far better off working with the 95% and not the 5%. But only until recent years did we know how to work with the subconscious mind. So it's an exciting time to be alive. It's an exciting time to be trying to elicit change in our lives, because we have amazing tools available to us now. So I would like to talk for just a moment about my new book, Saying the Right Thing When You Don't Know What to Say. Each week I try to talk a little bit about a concept in this book because I think it's such an important little book. I call it the little book that packs a big punch, because it's so important that people have a comfort level with knowing that they understand what the right kinds of things are to say in difficult conversations. Now, whether that conversation is difficult because the other person is hurting, or because you're needing to maybe instruct or discipline the person if it's a work situation, or because something is going on between you two in the relationship. Those tricky kind of conversations are hard, and too often in life we avoid them. And it's because we're not very well equipped, really, in our upbringing, in knowing what the right kinds of things to say are. And so today I wanted to talk a little bit about why don't we know the right things to say? Why is it so hard to have those tricky, difficult communications? Well, here on page 6, I give you a list of 10 things that influence how we think, therefore how we speak, how we respond to people in conversational situations. So here's what those 10 things are. Family experience, What's happened to you along the way as you're growing up? Family values. You know, if in my family, having a stiff upper lip and not whining and just getting back in the game kind of an attitude is what we valued and what we were taught, it's going to be very difficult for me to try to support someone who's wailing or sobbing or having a very dramatic kind of expression of their pain. So family values affects how we think and how we behave, therefore how we communicate. Societal norms and values. You know, if you grew up in Italy, you're going to have different societal norms and values than somebody who grows up in Nebraska. So that's an important piece. Cultural expectations. You know, our culture has certain expectations of us. For example, we all in America tend to wear black or dark colors to funerals. That's a cultural norm, a cultural expectation. If we were, another area is cultural practices. So like maybe walking behind the coffin, going through the graveyard is a cultural practice. If you're Catholic, it's a cultural practice to make the sign of the cross when you enter the church. So these things also affect how we think and how we behave. Then, of course, there's personal values, what I think is right, no matter what my family thought or what my neighborhood people think. I may have my own ideas about what I think is right and what's right for me. Peer expectations are huge. You know, if you're in, let's say your peers are all very athletic people, and they're people who are out there early in the morning and running and jogging or heading to the gym, then if you're in that group, it might be a little hard for you to be really understanding and supportive of somebody who sleeps in till 11 o'clock in the morning and then watches TV until 1. So you see the things that our peers are doing, because remember, we're part of that group because we think what they're doing is the right thing to do. And finally, prior traumatic experience in our own lives. That's going to really affect how we communicate. Because let's say I've been through an earthquake and I saw a lot of people getting very upset and everything. And I could see that the panic was not helping anything. So now if I'm talking to somebody who's very panicky about the situation that they're dealing with, it's going to be very hard for me to not want to say, hey, knock that off. You know, that's not going to help anything. But it's not going to help anything to say that particular thing either, because somebody's emotional and somebody's upset. And they're not thinking with their head. They're thinking with their emotions. So those are some of the things that can impact us when we're trying to communicate. And when we're navigating a difficult communication, we have to be especially careful to try to override some of that and still come from being comforting, soothing, understanding, and accepting. All right. In our next segment, we'll be answering some emails from people who want to know about saying and doing the right thing when you don't know what to do. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more Change It Up with Paula Shaw on AM 1170, The Answer.
Now, more than ever, it's important for women to understand why they need a financial strategy. Women tend to make less money than men, live longer, and face more financial challenges during retirement. Hi, I'm Cheri Blair. With evolving roles and increasing responsibilities, women are seeking out ways to become more knowledgeable about their finances. My life's work has been to empower women to make good financial decisions today to help ensure you have a bright future tomorrow. I'm here to help you learn more and to become more. Give me a call for your free, no-obligation consultation.
Doubt and fear, and it even had me questioning if I'd made the right career choice. So I booked a session with Paula Shaw. And after hearing my predicament, she explained that when we get into negative, self-sabotaging thinking and we are being run over by our limiting beliefs, it's almost impossible to create positive outcomes. She helped me clear those destructive thoughts and beliefs using her cutting-edge energy psychology techniques. Not only did I feel a whole lot better after the session, but within 2 weeks, I had 7 loans in my pipeline. I was so glad that I went to see Paula Shaw. And you should too. It really changed my perspective on life, business, and now my business is going great. You can reach her at 626-864-0756. That's 626-864-0756. 626-864-0756. Or check her out at paulashaw.com. That's paulashaw.com.
Welcome back to Change It Up. Now here's your host, Paula Shaw.
Welcome back to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. So glad to have you here with me today. We're going to have an exciting conversation in our next segment with Cheri Blair about how we can close that gender wage gap so that men and women are earning equal pay for the equal job. All right, but in this segment, we're going to be answering some emails. So my producer, Todd, is at the ready, I believe. Todd, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, cool.
Yes, we've got a couple emails. The first one reads, Dear Paula, what is wrong with men? Why are they such babies? My friend just went through a breakup with a guy she thought was the one. He said he just finally faced the fact that he was terrified of commitment and doesn't want to hurt her. I get so mad every time I think about it. This has happened to me. Why are men so afraid? Signed, Melinda.
Oh, Melinda. Boy, I'll tell you, there have been a lot of women sitting in my office asking me this very same question. And I have to admit, there have been some times in my own life when I've asked that very same question. It's a funny phenomenon that seems to happen with men where in the beginning, remember, men love the hunt, right? They're hunters from the very beginning. It's hardwired into them genetically. And so in the beginning, there's a mission, so to speak. You know, the mission is to get a certain woman interested in them, to get her to want to date him and to maybe even fall in love with him. And then I think sometimes once that part is done and the reality of what commitment is and what that might entail, when that hits them, then fears can come up. Another thing, you know, I totally believe is that men are far more sensitive than we women think they are. And sometimes when a man has been hurt in a really difficult situation, it sticks with him on levels that we girls wouldn't necessarily expect. I think sometimes we're so used to thinking about life the way we see it, and we know we're emotional, and we know we come from our hearts, that we tend to think men are just come from their heads, that they're more calculated in how they approach life. And while they do have a bigger left brain, that is anatomically true, and they are good at linear, logical thinking, they're also sensitive beings. And I think even more so today, because men are allowed today to be more sensitive. Where I think there was a time when, you know, the expectation of men was John Wayne and, you know, that sort of big, tough guy kind of thing, you know, provider, protector. And so they just didn't really have a fair shake, you know. Nobody expected to see men crying in public. And I think when a man was really hurt, it wasn't as okay for him to call a friend and say, hey, you know, I'm hurt and want to grab a beer. I could use a buddy. That's an okay thing for a guy to say today. But I think in the past, it's been far more acceptable for men to be angry than it is for them to be sad and hurting. It's easier to say, I'm ticked off for a man than it is to say, I'm afraid. I'm really scared. I get a knot in my stomach every time I think about this. So our times are more humane, let's say, to men now, and yet, you know, the difference between men and women is still very real. And I think women, when they feel a connection with a man, the idea of nesting, so to speak, of taking this thing further, of continuing the relationship throughout our lives, that feels good to a woman. Because we are natural nesters, because we're the ones that are going to create the babies, right? Not alone, of course, but you know what I mean. And we're the ones inside of whom the child grows. So we want a home. We want a comfy nest and a partner to make that picture feel safe and complete. For a man, in many ways, that commitment piece really represents limitation. No more opportunity to date anybody else, no more opportunity, especially think about marriage. You're basically saying, you're it for me for the rest of your life. That's a huge commitment on both parts. I mean, for women it is too. But I just think that sometimes because men are just more into multiple experiences of different kinds with women, and we women are kind of like, boy, we find the right guy, we're done. We're ready to just settle down with that guy. So again, we're looking at gender differences, and they're out there, guys, whether we like them or not. We're going to be talking about that a little bit more with Cheri Blair in our next segment. All right, Todd, do we have another email?
Yes, we have one more email. This one reads, "Hi, Paula. I read your book about saying the right thing when you don't know what to say, and I have a question. You talk about the 5 steps of success and successful supportive conversation, and I think they are really good and really important. But what do you do if someone always says to you, I don't want to talk about it? How do you get them to talk? Or should you just leave them alone? It's very frustrating. What is the right thing to do?" Signed, Jeannie.
Jeannie, okay. Yes, this is also a very ubiquitous experience. I think especially for men, because as we've been discussing, men are different from women. And there are a lot of guys out there today who are actually very good at speaking about their feelings. But in the past, because that wasn't a common experience for men, I think it just almost became a cultural difference that American men were much better at just being brave, taking a deep breath and stiff upper lip and get back in the game sort of mentality, rather than being able to say, wow, this one really, really hurt. This really blew up my world. And so they're not as practiced as we are at being able to say the right thing, or say anything when they're really, really hurting. But there are women, too, who will just say, I don't want to talk about it. I can't talk about it. Because, I think if in your upbringing, we've been talking a lot today about the cultural differences, the family experiences, the values that we grow up with. If we grew up in a family where it wasn't okay to really express your feelings openly, then it's not a comfortable act for us. Or we may have grown up in a family where we were taught, you just go to your room and work it out within yourself. Don't burden everybody else with your sadness. That happens out there, guys. And so depending on how you've been acculturated in your upbringing and in your life, that's going to seriously impact your ability to want to talk about your feelings when you're hurting, or to be very good at it. And a lot of people, I think, do believe they should just work it out on their own. I personally, I'll tell a little story on myself. I struggle with that sometimes, because when I was a little girl, very often when I was acting out, I would be told, go to your room until you can come out with a smile on your face. Now, my parents were not saying we don't care about your feelings and we don't want to hear them. But the message that went to my subconscious mind, I believe, was you're not okay. You're not attractive when you're angry or you're crying or you're having a tantrum. So you got to get it together on your own before you are presentable to the world. So I have to tell you, to this day, even though I'm a therapist, my first go-to thought when I'm hurting is, I better just sit alone for a little bit and try and work this out. Fortunately, God gave me a daughter who's very good at talking about her feelings. And so I know, and my parents are always there for me today because I don't kick and scream and have tantrums anymore. And I have a beautiful support system. My son is there for me. Friends are there for me. So I will see myself starting to do that kind of, you guys know this one, go into the cave, work it out on your own, do it all internally. When the truth is, sometimes when you do talk to another human being, they can bring up a point of view or an idea that you would never have gotten on your own. And it can be so helpful and so important to have that processing time. So if someone says, I don't want to talk about it, then maybe the response is, okay, I want to honor your feelings, but I hope you won't stay there forever, and know that when you are ready to talk, I'm ready to listen. I want to be here for you. I want to be that sounding board. I want to help you if I can. That's a great thing to say to somebody, because now you've planted that seed. You've let them know that it's okay to need to talk, and you've let them know that you're available. And then one other thing I always encourage people, if you do have someone in your life who you know is hurting, check back with them in a few days. Don't just wait for them to reach out to you, because very often when people are hurting, they don't reach out. They're still caught up in going to their room until they can come out with a smile on their face or something very similar to that. So thank you for your emails, both of you. Thank you. Those were questions that I think gave us all some great insight. And in our next segment, we're going to get down and talk about how do we close the gender wage gap. We'll be doing that with Cheri Blair, who's coming up in just a few minutes.
We'll be right back with more Change It Up with Paula Shaw on AM 1170, The Answer.
Sometimes life throws you a curve. It can be a health scare, divorce, loss of a job, or death of a loved one. And big changes can make you feel stressed out and anxious, depressed, or unable to sleep. Nothing feels comfortable or safe, and that's a tough place to be. Wouldn't it be nice to have someone to talk it over with? Someone who understands why you feel the way you do and knows how to help. Paula Shaw is a life transitions counselor, an expert therapist that can help you deal with unwanted destabilizing change or disruption in your life. Using a variety of mind-body techniques and psychology processes, she helps identify the key issues, eliminating self-sabotage and doubt to get you rapid results. Paula Shaw Counseling is open to all people, all ages, and all walks of life. Big life changes can be tough. Paula Shaw can help you get through it. Call 858-480-9234. That's 858-480-9234. 858-480-9234.
When you're the victim of an accident or someone's negligence, insurance companies are not going to give you fair compensation for your injuries, damage to your property, and lost income. They actually try to minimize your claim. Don't sign anything until you talk with John Sahar and the Sahar Law Firm in Carlsbad. For over 29 years, John has done battle and has won millions of dollars in damages, medical bills, loss of earnings, and pain and suffering for his clients. John Sahar will stand toe-to-toe with the big insurance companies to make sure you get every dime the law demands, and you don't pay until John collects money on your behalf. From San Diego to LA, Santa Barbara to San Bernardino, for auto accidents, product liability, dog bites, any injury caused by another. If it brings pain and suffering, bring Sahar to the case. For a free case evaluation, call 760-683-2048. 760-683-2048. The Sahar Law Firm, fighting for you. 760-683-2048.
Welcome back to Change It Up. Now here's your host, Paula Shaw.
Welcome back to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. And as promised, here in this segment, we are going to be talking with our financial advisor and sponsor Cheri Blair about how we can close this gender wage gap. So first, let me tell you a little bit about this lady. She has been working as a financial advisor for over 27 years. She really knows her stuff. I can tell you that firsthand. And what we really love about Cheri on this show is that her whole focus is helping women to grow beautiful financial futures. And she does that in a variety of ways that I really love. She does educational events, but they're always fun. And we'll be talking about one a little later on that she's got coming up. And she also especially works with women to involve them, whether she's working with a husband and wife, involve them in the decisions and make sure they understand the investments inside and out so that they are able and competent should they, for some reason, suddenly be on their own, or if something happens where they want to maybe make an investment of their own. So Cheri Blair, ladies, if you are thinking about trying to find somebody to help you know what to do out there to grow your money and to spend it wisely, Cheri Blair is your girl. And she's my girl right now. Hello, Cheri.
Hello, Paula. Thank you. Thank you, Paula.
I'm so delighted to have you with us today.
Well, I'm delighted to be here, Paula. It's always so fun to be with you on your show.
Thank you. Thank you. I know we do always have a good time.
Yes, we do. We do.
So I was mentioning earlier in the show, Cheri, and also to the Facebook live stream viewers, that last month we talked about some facts that I think are still pretty horrible. Mm-hmm. Like that women still make 80 cents to every dollar that men make. Mm-hmm. And women of color, it can be as low as 60 cents, right?
Yes, even, half, really half. Latino
even
women
lower.
is even lower than people of color. Uh-huh.
So I think it's going to be really cool today that we're going to talk a little bit about how can we make this different? How can we change it up, Cheri?
Right. So you're right, Paula. There were a lot of facts that I shared last month, and it was really astonishing because we talked about the fact that it could be over 200 years or take over 200 years to close this gender pay gap.
Oh, yes.
And that was cited by the Global Gender Gap Report of 2018. So if we really want to reach equality for women, this topic just has to stay at our forefront, right? It has to stay in the forefront of our minds. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad to continue on with this, and I'd like to give some ideas instead of just the statistics of how grim this looks, to actually think about some of the ways that we can bring about the change.
I love that.
Right,
Let's talk about them.
So we know that companies and governments are, and this is worldwide, increasingly recognizing women of economic participation as a gateway to their household and community security. So it makes sense to concentrate on women as the forerunners of economic growth. So because of investing in women will produce a multiple effect. Mm-hmm. So women will reinvest for the most part in the majority of their income in their families and in their communities. So they also play key roles in creating peaceful and stable societies. So this is essential. Amen. Right. So this is essential for economic growth and prosperity. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I wanted to give. I actually have. I'd like to share 5 concrete ideas and things that can be done to close this wage gap, getting us closer to achieving gender equality or parity. So encouraging, number 1, right? Encourage women to develop negotiating skills. So there was a study done, obviously there's always these studies, right? Where they say 50% of men negotiate their salary compared to 7% of women.
Oh, my Lord. Only 7% of women negotiate their salary?
Right.
Wow.
Which, can you imagine? So when women do negotiate their salaries, it's been said that they ask for less money than men for the same job, same qualifications, educational certifications, so on and so forth. So, and this, one of the things is they're not, and this study was done in 2010, which is a while ago, but, and then an annual report on gender pay gap states that negotiating skills are especially trickier for women because some behavior like self-promotion, like promoting yourself, right, is not always comfortable for women, particularly some women, and that works for men, but it also would backfire for women.
And, I think the other piece that's got to play here is we're natural nurturers.
That's right.
We're worrying about other people's feelings and thinking about their feelings, where men have a different attitude about that, I think. So that does make it hard for us to negotiate.
That's right. That's right. So it goes on to say that negotiating doesn't have to feel like you're taking these huge risks. Knowing what your skills are, right? Understanding the value and the worth of those skills, right? And your talents and so forth. And making clear what you bring to the table.
I love that because that feels powerful. Doesn't feel bossy, doesn't feel full of yourself, right? It's powerful. Be clear who you are and bring that to the table and value it.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. So your common goals and maintaining a positive attitude, obviously, are just some of the tactics that we have seen to be effective for women.
Love that.
That's the first one. The second one is, you want to keep me track of the time there.
Yeah.
Encouraging women to discuss pay with coworkers. Okay. Now, this may sound a little odd for some, but they're saying, it's kind of like in Breaking Money Silence with Kathleen Kingsbury, right? And that is that, or even what you say, saying the right, or your book, saying the right thing when you don't know what to say. It's like you don't know how to say it or put it out there, but it's like these things have to come out. We need to discuss it. It has to get out on the table. So how do you know how much money to ask for if you don't know, you don't have any context?
Right.
So
you don't know what everybody else is making.
Right.
Good point.
Right. So
some of us were taught that's bad taste, but I think you're right. It needs to be out in front.
Right. So we need to start discussing our salaries.
All right. And number 3?
Okay. And number 3 is to pass additional wage equity legislation. Equality, I'm sorry.
Legislation that says men and women make the same pay for the same job. Is that what you're saying?
Right. In 2009, there was a Fair Pay Act done by Lilly Ledbetter, and that which protects a woman's right to take action against pay discrimination. But that's not enough because several states, just a couple states, have passed the Equal Rights Amendments to ensure that women are treated equally and fairly in these areas of society, including their workforce or workplace.
Yes, so we need maybe more and better legislation to protect us.
Because right now, the only laws that touches on equality for women and men is right to vote.
Wow.
As far as women and men equality.
All right, what's number 4?
Number 4.
These are good. I love them.
Pass paid family leave policies.
Okay, tell me, explain that.
Okay, there's been a big push to pass the family leave. I mean, in other words, when someone has a children, for the wife or the mother to have paid leave, and the father as well. And some companies are doing that. That is, we've been talking about that. That's been in the consciousness of our society now for a while, but but right now there's only 3 states that even have this policy.
Wow. Are we one of them? California?
Yes. Thank God.
Hallelujah.
In place guaranteeing that both parents have the right to have paid leave off work and care for their children. So that's going to make a big difference because in a lifetime, a woman will lose over $274,000 because of staying home with the children or having to, giving birth and taking care of the children and so on and so forth. Where a man would only lose around $30,000, which is over a $40,000 difference. That's in a lifetime. But, that could be tough. I mean, tough for us.
All right, and number 5.
Ensure access to affordable child care.
Okay.
So we know that, especially women making minimum wage. So if you're only making minimum wage, how do you afford to pay for child care?
Exactly.
So this will change a lot of things, right? Because, you can't even afford, if you have a baby, to stay home and not, you're going to pay your child care or almost what you get.
Oh, yeah. It's almost a push. Yeah. Right. So you don't end up actually earning any money. You end up being able to pay for the right to go to the job.
Right. Does that
somebody
make
to pay
sense?
for taking care of your children.
Exactly.
I do actually know somebody in my own life who was going to go to work, but that's exactly what happened. The amount of money it would cost her to have her daughter cared for wasn't quite as much as what she would have made in the job. So her earnings would have been minuscule.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is a big, big issue and has been for decades now.
All right, and we will talk more about how to close this gender wage gap when we come back with Cheri Blair in just a minute.
We'll be right back with more Change It Up with Paula Shaw on AM 1170, The Answer.
Jack Gutman survived World War II and then returned home to the hardest fight of his life with PTSD and alcoholism. Now at age 93, he's a businessman and comedian, sharing his message of recovery and hope in his new book, One Veteran's Journey to Heal the Wounds of War, helping our heroes and anyone who has experienced PTSD find happiness again. Get Jack Gutman's new book, One Veteran's Journey to Heal the Wounds of War, at Amazon.com. Or to order a signed copy, call 714-525-4954.
For those looking to improve their lives, there's nobody better to turn to than Paula Shaw. Paula helps people regain successful lives by identifying and eliminating self-sabotaging behavior using a multitude of mind-body techniques to identify and resolve their core issues. Working with a wide variety of healing modalities, she provides her clients with the most effective process for their specific needs. To book a session with Paula, call 858-480-9234. That's 858-480-9234.
Welcome back to Change It Up. Now here's your host, Paula Shaw.
Welcome back to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. I'm here in studio today with Cheri Blair, and we're talking about how do we close this gender wage gap? Because, as we mentioned earlier, women are still not earning equally with men, even if they're doing the exact same job. That's just crazy, Cheri. In 2019, it's hard for me to believe that's still the case. But in our last segment, Cheri gave us 5 tips for closing that gender wage gap. And Cheri, so let's talk a little bit about how does this play out in retirement? I mean, if you're not even earning the same during your earning years, then what happens?
Great point, Paula. This is very important because if we're earning less and we're not working as much because we're taking care of the children or our senior parents as caretakers, how does that affect us in retirement? We know that women are more likely to take the time off for work, as we talked about,
right,
and to raise their families. And during these periods, there may be earnings that they're gonna lose out on these earnings, right? So they're going to earn less. And secondly, women live longer than men on average. We've talked a lot about that over the time,
Yes, we have.
And, that's been cited. There's a U.S. Center of Disease Control that, was decided that I was looking at. But the average life expectancy for women is over 81 years old, whereas for men, it's 76 years old.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's pretty young.
And women earn less than their male counterparts. And we have to stretch our retirement savings that much longer.
Right.
So, and there's also what you've heard of as the pink tax, and that means women often pay more than men for some of the same products. I know that's very odd, but there's a long list of expenses that women will outlay over their lifetimes for things that men do not, and that is obviously the female products, right? Well, cosmetics, right?
Right.
What about hair color?
I know. We
Right.
spend a lot of money on things they don't even need.
Right.
Lipstick.
Exactly.
Eye makeup.
Exactly. So earning less over fewer working years has a secondary impact on the shrinking of the amount of Social Security that one will get.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay?
Wow.
So, and you have to, Social Security is based on,
Oh, that's true. What you earn, right? When you work?
is based on workers' 35 highest earning years.
Ah, I see.
So if the male counterpart, works another 5-10 years more than you, you're already, and you're making less. So we're making less. We work less. Not everyone, but typically. And then we live longer. Think about it.
Without the money we need to live well.
Right. So, so I have a couple of ideas. So we want to prioritize retirement savings more, okay? And women aren't always saving for retirement enough. I know that women think about retirement and expect it, and they talk about wanting to do it, but they say that although a lesser rate than men, only 45% of women expect to be able to even fund their retirement.
Wow.
Where with men, it's over 52%.
So a huge percentage of us are still hoping and counting on a man,
Right.
paying for our retirement or earning what will provide for us in our retirement.
At least part of our retirement. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Wow.
So the second thing would be to participate in retirement savings plans. So, they say 73% of women participate in either a 401k, a 403b, or some similar kind of employer-sponsored retirement plan, whereas for men, it's over 82%.
Wow, that's a big difference.
Yeah, that is a big difference. So, on average, women contribute just 7% of their annual salary to these plans, where a man will contribute over 10%. So, when you think about all these things and you add them up, and then, as women, we're coming into retirement, or we're, looking at retirement. It's like we're facing these things. We actually need more money than men.
That's
do.
true.
If we're living longer, we need more money. So how do we do that? We have to develop specific retirement strategies and plans. We have to do that.
That's what you help people do, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yes, and you do it very well. And you do it, you're particularly focused on what's good for women, right?
That's right. Absolutely. I am. Because it is very important for me. It's a passion of mine, and I've dedicated a lot of my life to empowering women financially, teaching women financial literacy, and helping them find the value that they deserve, to have the financial comfort and the retirement like anybody else would. And when people have a problem with that, I always say, well, you need to go talk to if they need some psychological help or coaching. I say it's a good thing to talk to a counselor, like you, Paula. And we mentioned Kathleen Kingsbury on the show here. She helps coach women when it comes to knowing their worth and be able to negotiate at a job, or for a particular job.
Sure.
Yeah.
It occurs to me that probably part of the problem is we were talking earlier about cultural norms, right?
Right.
It used to be a cultural norm that women either stayed home altogether or they stayed home for many years raising the children.
Right.
So our culture didn't need to make sure women could earn equally because that wasn't even an issue.
No.
They weren't really working at one point in time, and then they stepped into the job market. And it was like our culture was still back thinking everybody's staying home raising the children, but here we were out in the workforce.
Right. So today, I don't think I sit in front of couples that both of them would not have to work.
Yeah, that's pretty true, especially here where we live
in California. But, you know, even if it's not, you know, the entire, I mean, they get to stay home and help raise the kids or be there with the children when they're young. But it's just not the same. It's not the same. I mean, we all know it's just harder and harder and harder for people to be in the middle class and to reach that and stay that. It's pretty, like you said, even particularly here in California and different parts of the country where, you know, property values are so high and land values are so high. And, you know, so it's not really something that, you know, that we have the, we can do, or, you know, it's not a privilege, or it is a privilege if you have it, but if it, you know, for most of us, they don't.
Yeah.
So where are we at?
And it's one of the things, I think we're about 2 minutes behind. And I think that one of the things that occurs, at least in the interaction for you with the women that you deal with, and one of the things that hopefully we're trying to do right here in this show is education. We need to educate women about what is right. We need to educate, like the point you made earlier about women don't have the negotiating skills to go in and negotiate a better salary. You know, it's not like part of the culture in which we grow up.
Right.
You know, we're playing mommy and dolls. We're playing tea parties. We're doing other kinds of things that are more about family and nurturing, while the guys are learning how to be tougher than the other guy and how to be a winner at this and compete. Yeah, exactly. So they're just naturally better at it. And one of the things I really love about what you do, Cheri, is these events.
Yes.
Which I have been to many of. Cheri really understands women. So she puts together at least a couple of times a year, and now even more, events where either the ambiance is lovely, like a garden, and part of what you're going to do is put a flower arrangement together combined with beautiful food and an educational segment where you cover a certain topic, like maybe retirement, saving for retirement, that kind of thing.
That's right.
And you're about to do that again, aren't you? What do you have coming up, Cheri?
Yes, Paula, thanks. I have a couple of events coming up in April. So the first one is April the 6th, and it is Dream Your Finances.
Oh, tell me about that. Because I'd like to dream a big dream.
Well, that's exactly what we're doing. That is exactly what we'll be encouraging the women to do. It is on a Saturday afternoon, and it is at my office. And it's a smaller, more intimate setting. So we are going to be doing that. We're going to be putting vision boards together.
Oh, great idea.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah.
And that's April 6th, you said?
April the 6th. And the other one is April the 27th. And that's at the San Diego Botanic Gardens in Encinitas on a Saturday afternoon. And with I have another guest speaker, and myself will be sharing the financial literacy or information to educate women. And we're having a fashion show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
This is something new.
Yes, it is. It is.
We haven't done a fashion show
That's
before.
That's right. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun with the girlfriends. I mean, it's a real fun, uplifting time, but it's also informational and informative. So, but it doesn't have to be real serious,
right? And stuffy, and
yes, to get the information, right?
Exactly. And that's one of the things I love about you, Cheri. What I love about your approach, and why I always recommend you to women, especially. But she does work with everybody, guys. She doesn't discriminate.
That's right.
But Cheri, I want to thank you so much for all this gold you shared today. And was there one more?
I just wanted to mention the website.
Yes. If you're interested in getting information about these events that Cheri just told you about, they should go to
Cheri Blair financialservices.com. That's my website.
And her name is spelled Cheri Blair, Cheri Blair financialservices.com. Thank you again, Cheri. Thank you for all the wisdom you shared and for the bright person that you are, the little bubbly firecracker. And thank you to all of you for being with us today, especially on the Facebook fully produced maiden voyage of our show. We are on AM 1170 and 96.1 FM every Sunday evening at 9 o'clock. We're on all the major podcast platforms and iHeartRadio and Blog Talk. So it's very easy to find us. And if you can't remember all that, as I always say, just ask Alexa. Actually, you know what? You can ask Siri now, too. I tried that.
Oh, wow. That's
so
cool.
Thanks for being with us.
Great.
We look forward to seeing you again next week. And thank you, Cheri.
Thank you, Paula. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Change It Up with life transitions expert, speaker, and best-selling author Paula Shaw. Join the Change It Up movement with Paula Shaw as we explore topics that inspire, welcome change, and create a new kind of conversation. To learn more about Paula, how to be a guest on the show, and sponsorship opportunities, visit changeitupradio.com. Whether you're feeling happy, sad, mad, or glad, it never hurts to change it up.